I've been a janitor at Hillcrest Private School for 11 years, long enough to know that buildings remember things. Teachers come and go, students grow up, graduate, and forget, but the walls, the floors, the ceilings, they keep every sound, every secret. I work the night shift when the last teacher leaves and the last student stops pretending they forgot something in their locker, just to hang around a bit longer. That's when my day starts. Most nights are the same. Empty corridors, buzzing lights, the hum of old ventilation, and the wheels of my cleaning cart echoing down quiet halls. But there's one part of the school I never liked. The old wing. The one they technically don't use anymore. And at the end of that wing, right next to the fire exit that never opens, is classroom 1 to be locked. Lights off, blinds always drawn. And if you ask anyone why, they'll tell you the same thing. We don't use that room anymore. No explanation, no sign on the door, just a silence that feels intentional. The first time I heard something from 1 to B, I thought it was the pipes. It was a Tuesday, around 7 in the evening. The place was already empty. I was mopping the floor outside the staff room when I heard it, humming. Soft, high-pitched, the kind of humming kids do when they're coloring or waiting in line, or staring out a window instead of paying attention. It was coming from the old wing. I stopped mopping and listened. It came again, a little clearer, a child's voice, humming Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I followed the sound down the corridor. Every step I took, the humming grew quieter, not because it was fading, but because the corridor was swallowing it. The old wing does that. Sounds don't travel properly there. They fold. By the time I reached room 1 to B, the humming stopped. The door was closed, lights off, same as always. I stood there for a few seconds, listening. Nothing. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks. Or maybe a ringtone from one of the classrooms I'd already cleaned. Maybe a teacher had left their phone behind. Maybe there was a radio on somewhere. You come up with excuses quickly when you work alone at night. I went back to my cart, finished mopping, and tried to forget. It didn't stop. Every night that week, at exactly 7:14 p.m., I heard it again. Always the same tune, always the same thin, shaky little voice, and always from the direction of classroom 1 to B. I started checking the locks, just to make sure. The door didn't budge. I even tried the handle once. It was stiff, like it hadn't moved in years. Finally, one night, curiosity beat out common sense. I went to the front office and checked the CCTV feed for the old wing. We have cameras in every corridor. I scrolled back to 7:14 p.m. and there it was. A timestamp, an empty hallway, my cleaning cart on one side, and outside room 1 to be a shadow, not a person, a silhouette. It was small, shoulder level. If it was standing beside me, it flickered just outside the classroom door, like someone standing there but not fully there. And though the feed had no audio, I swore I could hear that humming again as I watched it. Then the lights above the classroom door flickered, and the shadow disappeared. I told myself it was a glitch. The cameras in that wing were old. I knew that. Maybe it was just playback corruption. I shut the monitor off and went back to work. But from then on, I avoided that corridor as much as I could. Problem is, the building didn't avoid me. A few weeks later, the principal asked me to stay later than usual. "We've got parents' evening tomorrow," he said. "Can you make sure all the rooms are spotless? Especially the older classrooms. Some of the tours go past there." I nodded, like I always do. It's my job. I don't argue. That night, I made my rounds. Classroom after classroom, desk after desk. Pick up papers, wash down WHITEBOARDS. By the time I finished the main block, it was already after 9. The school was dead quiet. I saved the old wing for last. I always do. The lights in that corridor are on motion sensors. They flicker on one by one when you walk in. Except that night, they were already on when I turned the corner. Every single one. I stopped at the far end of the corridor. The door to classroom 1B was slightly open, just a crack. Like someone had gone through and hadn't bothered to pull it shut properly. I knew it hadn't been like that earlier. I'd walked past that wing early in the evening. The door had been fully closed. It's always fully closed. I pushed my cart forward, slowly. The wheels squeaked on the old floor as I got closer. Something inside the room flickered, a movement or a reflection. I couldn't tell. My first instinct was to call the principal, or security, or anyone. But who do you call for a door that opens by itself? So instead, I told myself the same thing I always do. It's just the building. You're tired. Do your job. When I reached the door, I noticed something scratched into the wood. Near the handle, tiny marks, overlapping. Like someone had been dragging something sharp over and over. At first, I thought it was vandalism. The kids sometimes do that to the lockers. Bored hands, bored minds. But these weren't random lines. They were letters. TACHE, rewritten so many times the wood had worn down. I swallowed and pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. Dust, old paper, and something else. Something stale, like water that hadn't moved in years. The room was dim, lit only by the hallway lights spilling in and a sickly glow from a single emergency light. In the far corner, the desks inside were still arranged like a classroom. Chairs pushed in, textbooks stacked in piles, sticky notes faded and curling at the edges. But there was something wrong about the way the desks were positioned. They weren't facing the board. They were turned inward, toward the center of the room, like a circle or like rows in a chapel. I stepped inside. The door creaked behind me. On the teacher's desk, in front of the circle of chairs, was a framed photograph. I wiped the dust off with my sleeve. It was a picture of a girl, 14, maybe 15, braided hair, uniform perfect, smiling like someone told her to, but her eyes looked tired. On the bottom of the frame, a little metal plate read, "In loving memory of Emily Carter, 2008 to 2014. When it finally clicked. I'd heard her name before, years ago, whispered in the staff room when they thought no one was listening. Mentioned once in the principal's office when a parent was complaining about safety procedures. The girl who died at school. I'd never known which room it happened in. Now I did. Classroom 1B. Behind me, something moved. It wasn't loud, just a soft scrape of a chair leg against the floor. I turned around. All the chairs were still, but there was someone sitting in the last row, a shape, small, head down, hair hanging over their face. For a moment, I thought one of the kids was playing a prank. Maybe a student had snuck in to hide. Maybe I'd walked right past them. "Hey," I said, my voice sounding much smaller than I intended. "School's closed. You can't be here this late." No reply, no movement. I took a step closer. As I did, the emergency light flickered, and for a second, the whole room plunged into darkness. When it came back, the figure was closer. Not by much. Just one row nearer, still seated, still facing me, head still bowed. My chest went tight. "Look," I tried again. "I need to lock up. You don't want me calling your parents, right?" The fluorescent light outside the classroom buzzed, then went off. Only the weak light in the corner remained. I was alone in that room. With her, the air tightened. I could hear the faint sound of humming. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." The same tune I'd been hearing for weeks. It was coming from that bowed head, from that body in the chair. I took another step. My foot hit something on the floor. I looked down. There were dozens of sheets of paper scattered near my shoes. Each one had the same word scratched all over it in shaky handwriting. Teacher over and over, sometimes in lines, sometimes in jagged spirals. That my heart was pounding now. That something inside me said, leave now. But something else kept me there. Curiosity, guilt, the feeling that if I walked away, this wouldn't stop. Not for me, not for the school. I looked back at the girl. Emily, I whispered, my mouth dry. The humming stopped. Slowly, her head lifted. First the chin, then the mouth, cheeks, eyes. Her face was pale and stretched tight, like she hadn't seen sunlight in years. Dark shadows cupped her eyes like bruises. She stared at me. Not through me, not around me. At me. And then she smiled. Not the smile from the photograph. This one was wrong. Too wide, too slow, like someone pulling a zipper open in skin. Her voice was soft, flat, tired. You're late, she said. The temperature in the room dropped. My breath came out in a faint cloud. Late for what? I asked, though I already knew. She stood up. The chair didn't make a sound this time. No scrape, no creak. She took one step forward, then another. Each step perfectly quiet, like her feet never fully touched the ground. Up close, I saw that her uniform was dirty, old stains, water marks, and on her left sleeve, a darker patch, dried blood. She stopped a few feet from me, looking up. Her neck twitched, like she wasn't used to holding her own head up anymore. They left me here, she whispered. Class ended. They all left, even the teacher. Her eyes were wet now, but the tears didn't fall. They just sat there, glassy and cold. I tried to get out, she continued, but the door wouldn't open. No one heard me knocking. As she spoke, a dull ache formed in my chest. I imagined her banging on the door, calling for help, the sound swallowed by thick walls and busy adults. She took another step closer. She was close enough now that I could smell the dampness in her clothes. It's your job to clean, she said quietly, to check every room, to make sure no one's left behind. Her voice changed on those last two words. Left behind. My hands shook. I wanted to tell her that I hadn't been working here when she died, that it hadn't been my shift, that I didn't even know she existed back then, but that didn't matter. The building didn't care about time. The walls remembered. The room remembered. And to the room. A janitor is a janitor. I'm sorry, I said. She blinked slowly. The humming started again. Under her breath. She stepped past me now, back toward the door. Class isn't over, she murmured. You still have work to do. The emergency light flickered again. The room pulsed between dim and pitch black. I felt the pressure around me, like the desks had moved closer without making a sound, like the circle was closing. When the light steadied, she was sitting in the teacher's chair, head slightly tilted, eyes locked on mine. My feet felt glued to the floor. Every night at 7:14, she said, you'll come back, you'll clean, you'll listen. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. She smiled again. That slow, tearing motion. And you won't leave a single room unchecked. Ever again. The emergency light above her popped. Glass rained down over the desk. The room went completely dark. I stumbled backward, heart racing, my hands searching for the door. My fingers found the handle. I yanked it open and bolted into the hallway. The corridor lights were off. Only the exit sign glowed at the end. Behind me, the door to one to be slowly creaked shut. No one was there to push it. I thought about quitting. I really did. But the next night, I was back. And at 7:14 p.m., I found myself in the old wing again. This time, the door to classroom 1-B was closed. Lights off, blinds drawn. But I could hear humming on the other side. I didn't go in. ICOULD and single quotes T. Instead, I stood outside the door and listened until the humming stopped. Then I checked every other room in the building. Every classroom, Every bathroom, every office. I still do, every night. Because sometimes, as I lock the last door and head toward the exit, the intercom crackles to life. No one's in the office. No one's pressing the button, but a child's voice comes through, distorted and echoing down the halls. "Teacher, you missed a spot." And when I check the cameras later, there's always the same thing. A flash of a small figure, sitting alone in classroom 12B. Humming, waiting.